Hey everybody.
Hey.
Tarp shelters.
Yeah.
Alright, this video we're trying to keep pretty simple. So it's going to be shelters you can make with just your tarp, just some paracord, and some pegs some stakes that you can make with sticks. So no metal stakes or anything like that. We're completely surrounded by tent posts and stakes and whatever else the crap you may need out here. So all you need is the tarp, some paracord, a knife will help. No other frills involved. Now that being said, before we started, we wanted to show you some things that do not take up much space in your pack that are really handy to have. This figure 9 carabiner, super handy. It makes tensioning your rope and your setups really easy. This is made by Night Eyes. Same thing with these little dudes, made by the same company. They're for tensioning rope. You can do all kinds of things with these. Super handy. So ultimately we're going to do a series of videos. This first one's going to be the easy guys. We're going to do some other videos that are going to be a little more advanced, where you'll have to incorporate some support poles and things like that. But this video is going to be all easy stuff to set up. So just so you know. Alright, so the first one we're going to show you is one of my personal favorites. This is the A-frame. This is actually one of the easiest out of all of them, and to me one of the most useful. So I'm going to come over here to Taylor. We'll kind of explain what we're looking for, what you need to do.
So for our A-frame, we're just going to need 2 support posts, and in this case they're just going to be 2 trees. So we're going to be using this one and this larger one over here. Depending on the size of your tarp, how high you want your ridge line of your tarp to be will determine how high we put our ridge line. So for this, I'm just going to do a little bit lower than shoulder level. So we're going to secure one end of our ridge line to this tree. We'll gather up our paracord and we'll move over to this tree.
All right, while Taylor finishes off that there, just to show you, this is what we've got. Basically what we've made is a just slightly below shoulder height clothesline. That's what you want to make, nothing scientific.
Or a really small tightrope.
Yeah, really small tightrope. If you can slackline this, you are impressive. But anyways, that's all we're looking for. You can dictate the height. You also need to kind of go based on what tarp you have, because our tarp's going to go all the way to the ground. But you can dictate the height. We went just below shoulder length or so, just a straight line from one tree to the other.
Right, something that I always like to carry with me when I'm doing tarp tents are these just little lengths of paracord. You can use these to tie off. One thing I really like to use them for is just tie them in a loop. And what we'll do with these, so you're just gonna kind of do a prusik with them around your line, and this gives us tie-in points for our tarp. So we'll show you how we use these in just a second when we get our tarp thrown up.
Cool. All right, all we did was lay the tarp over the line. That's pretty easy. You can handle that, I promise.
So we showed you these little paracord loops earlier, and now we're going to show you how to use them. So like we said, we're just going to tie them onto our main line with just a prusik.
That's just basically looping it back through itself a couple times.
Yeah.
So the knot we're using to secure the tent to the ridge line is just that loops coming through. Double it back, and then that'll bite right down on that stick. And that's all there is to it. All right, over here on the other end, we're going to do the same thing. We've got a grommet up at the top. We're going to use the same loop, the same knot, everything on that end. All right, here's what we've got so far. We've tightened up both of those knots on the end so that our ridge line and everything up there is nice and tight. Now we need to stake down our sides. Ow. Oh, that hurt. Boom. That's some fine livings right there. So that's the A-frame done. It's just a ridge line of paracord. Tarp goes over in the middle, stake down your sides. Boom, A-frame. All right, so this is an 8x10. Depending on how you lay it in there, you get a couple people, maybe a few, if you don't mind really sandwiching up in there. So tarp size is totally up to you, and there's all kinds of different beliefs and all that good stuff out there based on that, but that's up to you. If it's just a solo person, you don't need a huge tarp. If there's more than one and you want to kind of hook everybody up, you want to go a little bit bigger. But that's the A-frame, super simple. So let's go through some out. All right, we're about to do another one, but I wanted to show you something real quick. You can use the grommets on your tarp to size things up. So this next one that we're going to do, we've come 2 grommets in, and we do that on both sides, and it makes things nice and even. So keep those grommets in mind, that's a way to space things out as you go along. All right, the one we're doing now is called the wind shed. So we've got the same setup. We've left our paracord going from tree to tree, so we still have our ridge line. We've taken the tarp back to the second set of grommets, so we just have a little bit overhanging the top. And then the front sections, you can see over here, Taylor's tying off a piece of paracord. What that's for is to anchor this into some pegs. All right, so we took our corners down to some anchors in the ground. This side we put in one of our fork sticks. You can see that anchored off to that. This side we had a convenient little tree, so that's got the front pretty tight. Now we'll fix the back here. Just to show you from the back side here, the front again is going down to those anchors. This comes down at a slope, and we've got it pegged right here in the rear. And then now this front portion will pull out, peg it down, and that gives us a nice little floor. So again, earlier I was talking about using those grommets as reference points. So from this bottom side, we came up 3 grommets on each side. That's how we get things nice and even. Taylor's just staking down those corners now. There we go. That's the wind shed.
So this shelter has a number of benefits. First one being, this back wall can provide as a windbreak, as well as a reflector for heat. If we get our fire going right out there, heat will bounce off it and come back to us. It also gives us full overhead coverage. We do have a little bit of wind that can come at us from this direction, but we're just going to make sure we have the back facing towards the most prominent direction for wind. It also gives us a really nice floor to work on. This might not be big enough of a floor for multiple people to sleep on, but you can definitely get quite a few people sitting in this if you're needing to use it as a rain shelter, or if it's going to be your overnight shelter. It's easily enough room for one person to get comfortable, plus store your gear at either end.
So I think we set this one up in probably about 4 minutes, super quick. One more thing, you can't quite tell, but the front part comes out away from our floor, so we've got a gap of maybe a foot. This comes a foot further out. That's going to keep the water away from you. If you've got it level, the water is going to come back into your setup there, so make sure you've got that space. The top flap comes out further than your floor. All right, the next one we're going to make is the tube tent, similar to the A-frame, but it has a floor. So I just wanted to show you, Taylor is dropping our ridge line down. He's bringing it down to about waist level. Getting it down to waist level is going to give us a little bit more tarp to work with. Tarp goes over the ridge line, secured the exact same way. We just brought that ridge line down to about waist level. We staked down the front. So what we did from our ridge line, we came down 2 grommets. So ridge line, 1, 2, staked it down, pulled it at an angle. So from this side, you can kind of see it looks like the one we did before, except the difference is, you can see we've got the start of a floor. So now again, he's measured down the same amount of grommets. Again, we're working in thirds, so first third, second, and the whole third right there. That's coming over. All right, so the floor part that we brought through, we're using the same stake in both of those grommets. So they're being staked down in the same place.
One thing you want to be careful about is you will have a seam over there, so you want to make sure you're setting that on your downhill side.
Which, I don't know how good I did at setting the camera up. I hope it's really, really level and you just can't tell. But there is a little bit of slope here. The slope is going this way, so any runoff will come this way and it's not going to come into the seam. It's going to go underneath it.
So this shelter shelter offers us a few benefits. First being we have a full floor. So the entire floor of our shelter is covered. We also have full enclosure cover from the sides and the tops. So that'll really help us stay dry in here. Another benefit of this is because of how low it is to the ground, it'll be less affected by wind, whereas some of our higher tarps will just catch a little bit more wind.
So one thing I wanted to show, we've got a little bit of swag in these sides. It's not really tight. Part of that's because we're trying to cram a lot into this video and we're working pretty fast. But the sides have a little swag. The easiest way to remedy that is to tighten your ridge line. So if you can see, I'm just going to pull up on the ridge line. See how much tighter that is? All right, so this one we're doing now is the lean-to. So same setup, we've got our paracord going from tree to tree. The difference now, you can see we've brought it up about, that's about 6-8 inches taller than Taylor, so it's up above head level. So the only difference is we have raised our paracord up.
We're still going to use all the same tie-ins as we did for our other ridgeline tents.
All right, Taylor's just re-rigging those corners, putting in the prusik knot. And this one's super easy. It's lashing 2 corners and pegging 2 corners. That's it. All right, so this is a good one if you're just kind of stopping, you're going to make some food, you need to get some water in you or something like that. This is great for blocking wind coming in behind you. So this one is similar to the wind shed in that also if you've got a fire in front of you, that wall being behind you helps radiate the heat back out so that you don't have that frosty booty and that really like overly warm front. It's going to help even the heat distribution a little bit. Ultra quick variation. All we did was pull the excess tarp we had on the back in, instant floor. All right guys, this one is so simple we didn't even show the process because we can easily explain it. This is literally each corner tied to a tree. This is the sunshade. Now, that being said, this one's so simple, don't overlook it because it's actually pretty handy. It is pretty much instant barrier from rain. And the upside is when you catch a bunch of rain, it will all settle in the middle and you can catch water. Like if you're hard up for water, it'll catch in the middle right there and you're good to go. The downside to that is you can't let this catch too much water or it'll rip your tent. But it does serve that purpose. It can be adapted into some other things, but it gives you rain shelter and it also gives you some reprieve from the sun.
So this last shelter is called the plow shelter or the plow point shelter, and it's really nice because we're only going to use about 2 feet of paracord to set this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little loop, just girth hitch it around this tree. We're going to do it at about shoulder level, just like that. Now we're going to take the corner of our tarp, pass this rope through it, and we're going to girth hitch it to one of our little wood posts, just like that.
All right, so this is the plow point. Basically what we did, this is one of the corners of the tent. Taylor showed how to rig that. This is the other corner on that edge, staked down. Then we staked it in the rear and we staked it on this side. Now we have a rectangular shaped tarp, so we have to kind of improvise on where we put it through the grommets. But the upside of that rectangular tarp is now that pulled us a floor section underneath. So we came up we came up 3 grommets on this end and staked right there, and then pulled, these are the 2 original corners right here at the end of that sleeping space. So we came up 3 grommets on that end, staked that corner, 3 grommets on the back end, and staked that corner, and then pulled that excess in. So super low profile, really gets you out of the wind, and it only takes a little bit of paracord and then some stakes. You've got all kinds of area to work in there. Taylor, if you want to hop in, we'll give you an idea of scale here.
Not so much headroom, but it gives you quite a bit of area to lay down, quite a bit of area out here to cook and to work. And like Scott said, because of how low angle this stands up very well in high wind. You just put this back corner towards the direction your wind is coming, and it'll just flow over top of you very easily. That's one reason we really like this shelter, because it will stay low and out of the wind, giving you quite a bit of area to work and to stay under.
All right, this is the back side of that tent. And I didn't want to just show you the back side of the tent. I wanted to show you the tarp itself. You can see that tarp is camo. In certain situations, I mean, that can be a definite advantage. I'm not talking about if you're a, miscreant running from the law or something, but if you kind of need to disappear a little bit, this is a lot better than some bright blue tint. It just depends on the situation. So this doesn't stand out as much and it doesn't draw as much attention. Again, I'm not telling you to go do stuff you're not supposed to do and then hide. This is just a survival point. Thank you.